Is this thing working? I think we're live. Let's see if we can hold on to a live show tonight. Maybe the feed sticks together. Maybe it doesn't. And maybe it's your first time joining the show. If it is, appreciate you stopping by. Motor Chat, Two Wheel Tuesdays, couple of live shows that I do. Basically, it's just background noise. I be chatting about motorcycle stuff and just who knows what else, but that's really the main focus. Not much more than just chatter while you're doing something a lot more important than watching the show. Now, if you like what you see, consider subscribing. It helps out the show quite a bit. Certainly do appreciate each and every one of you guys. So, we're going to be talking about some upcoming bikes, and we're going to be talking about some upcoming possible changes as some of these newer motorcycles are starting to come to come to fruition, so to speak. So you know how it is. And motorcycles, they're like paper chips. Well, it's been a long day. They're like potato chips. You can't put down on paper every bike that you've ever had in many cases. You start to forget some of them. And to be honest with you, that's sort of how I am. I will typically buy and hang on to a bike for a while, but I got to tell you, there's some new stuff coming out for 2026 and 2025, mind you, that has really got me intrigued. So there's a couple of bikes that I do want to chat about and I want to give a little bit of love to because I just don't think that some of these bikes do get the love that they deserve. So I'll be clicking back and forth while we're chatting. You might see me, I'm staring off into space and my hands are going crazy. It's just I'm bringing up some different points to ponder. So the first thing that I do want to talk about is that GSXR 1000, the new revamped model. And the thing is that, it's kind of funny. The more I've been looking at that bike and the more that I've been kind of diving into the specs, let's just say this. I've run my nerd flex has been pretty hard lately with that. And what I wanted to talk about, let's first talk about the Suzuki because it's kind of the forefront on everybody's mind right now. I've made a few videos talking about this bike, and I got to tell you, I don't think that I could wear the topic out. Anytime there is a revamp for Suzuki, this is the European site. Anytime there's a revamp for this bike, it's kind of funny because Suzuki is pretty much the yardstick that everybody is measured by. The Gixxer Thou is and has been for a lot of folks. When you think of sport bike, that is what shows up in your head. Now, the things that Suzuki have done to this new bike they're not a lot of, okay. So let me reset. I gotta say this before, because I'm just going to sound like I'm talking around in circles. When the Hayabusa went to its third gen and when it became Euro 5 compliant, it got some parts that would, especially at first blush, when you first look at them, what they're there for. The throttle bodies got smaller. The velocity stacks got longer. There were changes made to that bike to try to make as much mid-range power as it could. And funny enough, when I rode the third gen Hayabusa, one of the things that I came away with when I rode that bike was just how good it was. And so just think of things in terms of that bike. Yes, it's down in total power. It's not the total drag racer that it was before, but the average power was so good and it made that bike feel extremely lively. And so the net on that bike may really be more of a gain if you're not trying to kit the thing out to go out there and, try to run 200 miles per hour. And, you're just really more or less having a ball with a bike that's really, really good. Another motorcycle that Suzuki has put out that may have bucked that trend already, and I'm hoping is a sign of what we can expect out of the 40th anniversary bike, is the GSX-S 1000. The reason why it's so important to bring this up is because the GSX S1000, when it went from its previous iteration in 2020 to its Euro 5 compliant in 2023, I believe, 2024, Suzuki made quite a bit of changes to that bike to get it to that level, to the Euro 5 compliant. But in the process, they put smaller cams in it, revised a few doodads and gadgets, whatever. And initially, the claimed number was lower on that bike. And if you go to Two Wheel Dyno Works website, you will find that even though it starts life making less power, it ends up making more power by 3 or 4 points than the outgoing bike did. And let me remind you that the outgoing bike had bigger camshafts. That sounds a lot like what's going on with the GSX R1000. I don't know that this is exactly the case, but again, it's looking similar. Another bike where this has happened is with the Kawasaki Z900. Again, second verse, same as the first. And with the Kawasaki, they changed a bunch of things in the exhaust and made the exhaust work more to get the bike into Euro 5 compliance. And it made less power until you put exhaust on it. And then the other modifications that they did to that bike work in concert. And now that bike makes more power as its Euro 5, I guess, latest iteration hits the scene. Let's also not forget that every Euro bike is Euro 5 compliant. So what do I mean by that? Ducati, RSV4, the Panigale, you've got all the Aprilias, which are now at all-time record high horsepower numbers. The BMW S1000 R, these are all bikes that are Euro 5 compliant that make well over 200 horsepower, and they do so in unrestricted European form. The Japanese bikes that we get here in the States are highly neutered. It has something to do with noise regulations of all things. So anyway, it's how the Americans test. So if you take that into consideration, the new Gixxer Thau has got the markings of something that could end up being, once you de-restrict it, take that huge catalytic converter off of the thing, which may or may not be affecting flow. But normally, if you move the cat closer to the header, that's going to wreck flow. And that's what they did with this bike. So there's that. So I'm not really sure that you've got some folks that are really upset that, the power went down and, oh, this bike, how could you with all the other. I think that once this bike hits the States and once tuners get their hands on it, this thing could end up being an absolute monster. Time will tell, but I'm excited to see where this goes because I'm in love with this bike. I really am. So there is that. Now, one of the other things is, look, there's always going to be some kind of a tit for tat when it comes to manufacturers versus, the powers that be, wherever you are, the governing bodies, if you will, for emission standards. But every time there has been some kind of an argy-bargy between manufacturers and government entities, the product ends up evolving into something better. The forced efficiencies in many cases bring us to the next level. And then manufacturers figure out workarounds. And next thing you know, you've got 200, 210, 220 horsepower motorcycles running around where that would be impossible with yesterday's technology. So again, we got them fingers crossed. We'll see how that ends up playing out. Let me check in with you guys. Oh, goodness. Hang on. Ryan is in. Say, made it on time. DM is in. What's going on, man? Lime's in. What's up, buddy? Ryan's liking that Honda. Yeah, me too. What's funny is I thought the Honda had developed, I was riding it. It's a low-speed spark knock. And I was like, what the hell? Is this thing, is the gas okay in this thing? And I went back and watched the video, and there's a tag on the key ring that's flopping around and rattling, and I think that's what I was hearing. So Hunter, I take it back. Anyway, and we are going to be talking about that bike in the live too, because I've got a problem with the Honda, and it's a real problem with the Honda. And we are going to get into that here in just a minute. Let me check in with you guys, and then we're going to start talking Honda. What I wanted to do for the first part, guys, is talk about the Gixxer Thau, let you know where my real thoughts are with that bike. And we don't know yet. I would love to see this bike on a dyno soon. Oh, and I have reached out to multiple tuners. I've reached out to exhaust manufacturers on this bike. And it looks like, well, the tuners have been out, but it looks like the exhaust manufacturers don't see there being any difference on the outflow side on the cylinder head. We'll see. But it does have bigger exhaust valves. But Ryan, oh yeah, Ryan, it's a great bike. DM is in, hanging out with Ryan. What is up? Let you fellas get your beverages ready. Oh, I am messing up this feed here. Hold on. Here we go. Ryan's in. Ryan saying, the old lady said it's got to be an Indian Springfield. It's a nice bike. Yeah, I'm also excited about the 1000R too. DM saying, listen to the woman. Yeah, get both of them. Ryan's in. Oh, I got the ball guy with the flex and the specs. I like it. Yeah, a little bit pricey on both of those, my friend, for sure. Oh, Ryan had the glide out. Very nice. Ryan said the big bore kit order exhaust and the rest of the fixings for the big bore. Yes. I like it. They're not like a V-twin with a big bore. Okay. So let's talk about the Honda CBR 1000 RR. Let me get that pulled up for you right now. So let me just say this. I've got a real issue with this bike. Let me get this cookie thing out of here. What is this? What? No. There, you can confirm that. There you go. Okay. So let me tell you what my problem is with this bike. And it's a pretty serious bike. And by the way, that's the bike that I rode. Look at that. Okay. Here's the problem that I have with this bike. Wheelbase, 55.3 inches versus the GSXR, 54.7. There's not even there's a half an inch in wheelbase difference between the CBR 1000 and the GSXR 750. The new CBR 1000 has the new CBR 1000 horsepower up by 10 horsepower over the 2024 offering. Now, the 2024 offering in brake horsepower is, my understanding, was 179. This one is now at 189. I've seen other reports with different horsepower numbers, and it's driving me nuts that I can't get an actual number on this bike. But I will say this. The walking around number seems like it's 179 for the old bike, 189 for the new one, and 84 pound-feet of torque. 55.3-inch wheelbase versus 54.7 for the GSXR 750. It weighs a grand total of 12 pounds more than the GSXR 750. So where am I going with all this? Well, here's the thing. It's a base model CBR 1000 RR. It's got multiple ride modes, which you can turn off. And by the way, this was a really good stand-in for the 2026 GSXR 1000. What with all of the nannies that are employed on this bike. In fact, here's the funny thing. When I rode this bike for the ride and review, I didn't let the tack go past halfway. When I'm riding new bikes, I typically don't run them that hard. And even just keeping the bike in reasonable RPM ranges, considering it's a 0 mile bike. I was the first person to ever ride this bike. I had nannies kicking in all over the place. And so there's that. But here's the thing. 432 pounds, 189 horsepower. It's lighter than the GSXR 1000 by 13 pounds. Are y'all seeing where I'm going with this? It's the same size as my GSXR 750. In fact, it falls very neatly in terms of weight. Gixxer 750 is 420. This is 430. And the Gixxer Thau is 445. Same basic wheelbase, but about 40 more horsepower, 50 more horsepower. So I guess the question is, would you rather have a CBR 1000 RR in white with quick shifter or a GSXR 750? I'll just put it to you like this. I am probably going to want to spend some more time with this bike because it is really that good. It's one change in equipment away from being really good. And that change is to take the 190/50 tire off the back and go with the 190/55, provided that it doesn't sketch out the electronics. Make that change on this bike, and now all of a sudden, it's a middleweight with 189 horsepower, guys. So I am at my brain hurts right now because I love my Gixxer 750. I so love that bike. But this thing and all of this thing's glory, I mean, look, you put a tail tidy on it, put a tune and exhaust on it. And let's say it puts down a flat 180 to the rear tire. A flat 180 tuned would only be about, say, 5 horsepower down from a tuned GSXR 1000 with a pipe. Think about that for just a minute. And that's the right now GSXR 1000, and that's also the right now Yamaha R1. See, Yamaha R1 and GSXR 1000, they're I mean, it's a wash. You can look at the dyno charts. Looking at peak to peak numbers, they're very, very similar. So got a lot of equity in the 750. The new Honda ain't cheap. I would want one fitted with a quick shifter. But damn, I could have my cake and eat it too with the Honda. See what I'm getting at? And it's just one of those extremely things that, you know, had I known. See, here's the other thing. It's how well this bike fit. Love my GSXR 1000, but it does feel like a bigger bike than this. I like the way that this bike is set up from the factory. There's a lot to like about the Honda. And what I said in the video, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, you buy the Honda after the Honda is like the hot librarian after you've been dating the freaking crazy stripper chick with the Gixxer Thau. I mean, it just makes more sense. The Gixxer Thau is a monster when it comes to power, putting the power down. It's a freak in the sheets. But the problem is that it makes you want to be a freak too, right? Where the Honda is just so good. It's so well-mannered. It's like, we're going to go do dumb things. We're going to do them with poise and grace, right? It's the equivalent of day drinking at the polo club, right? That's the way the Honda comes across. It's very unassuming. In fact, it's kind of like that mousy girl that you really should have asked out back in the day, when you come to find out that it ain't really fun for her unless she draws blood on you, like elbows. That's the kind of thing that the Honda is like. And so I gotta say, I'm so impressed with it because of how it's packaged. But I'm even more impressed with it with the fact that it really is the bike that you watch other people from when they're out doing roll racing and, you know, just trying to cut each other's heads off. In that respect, the Honda just continues to be a hell of an awesome bike. So, yeah, a lot of cool things about this bike. I just have to make a decision whether I want two Suzukis or a Suzuki and a Honda. And then I spend time with this bike. Next thing you know, where does the Gixxer stand against a bike like this? And I'm not just talking about my bike. I'm talking about the 2026 bike, because there really is only so much power you can put to the ground. And I'm mentioning the CBR specifically in this because it has programmable, adjustable, rider adjustable wheelie control, slide control, traction control. It's got every kind of all of that. And it's all in a very intuitive TFT screen. And you can switch things around on the fly. You can, once you make all your changes for your rider adjustable mode, you can just bump, hit the buttons and change up the entire complexion of this bike. And I can tell you the nannies kick in. And when they do, they're not really, well, they're intrusive. In fact, they're very noticeable, but it's not that bad. It's more predictive than reactive. So again, very much the same as that Aprilia Tuono V4 that I rode, where it kind of knew what you were trying to do and it knew what you were trying to get away with, and it would, you know, give you a little slap on the hand, but it just wouldn't allow you to do it. It would just kind of go, nah, you're not doing that. And that's kind of cool, I guess. And that's, I suppose, the way you would want these types of systems to work, to be proactive as opposed to reactive. But man, I got to tell you, I didn't get a chance to push this bike, but I would love the opportunity. That is for sure. Let me go check in with you guys. Oh yeah, no, Ryan, it was not the Blade. No, I wanted, this one's actually, okay. So versus the Blade, the Double R is a lot more comfortable to sit on. Everything about the Double R to me was, from an ergonomic standpoint, the Double R was just absolutely perfect. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. If you were to blindfold me and sit me down on the GSXR 750 or the CBR 1000 Double R, not talking about the Blade, I'll tell you exactly when I'm sitting on that one. But if you were to take me off of the street, put me on the 750 or put me on the Double R and go ask me which one am I sitting on, I would not know the difference. That's how close they are. Another thing I really liked about the Honda, and I try to show this in the video, is when you're on the bike, you can really scoot your butt back, and you've got a lot of room to move. I recently went and took a look at the 2026 Aprilia RS V4. And one of the weird things about the European bikes is just how almost locked in you are in the seat. Like you can't move, you can't really change position with those bikes. The BMWs you can, some of them, but the later ones are very uncomfortable and extremely tall. But for these types of bikes, for more street-oriented bikes, these are really comfortable. So again, really lost me today on this. And, I got to thinking, do you just go, hey, look, fit the quick shifter to this thing. Let's go ahead and work a swap and make it work. I don't know. I do want to get my 750 back and spend some time with it. But boys, I'm going to tell you right now, the Honda makes an extremely compelling argument against any middleweight. And here's the other thing so in saying that, here's another problem that the Honda brings to the table. So it's funny that we're talking about Honda being such a disruptive source right now, but it really is. It's got me all screwed up with the GSX-R 750. Do I trade in for this thing, even though I just bought the 750? Here's the other thing. The Honda is not cheap. With the quick shifter, MSRP is $17,500. That's a lot of money, but I need you to understand that all of these leader class bikes, that's the number that they're coming in at, between $16,000 and $18,500, right? That's where you're going to start off at. Most of them are going to land on the European side around 20 to 23. So Japanese bikes are just $17,000. That's kind of the cover charge you're going to be paying to get in on this. But look at the middleweights. And I'm calling out the R9 specifically. 12.5 is the MSRP on that bike. So a big difference. Until you start factoring in that now Yamaha has, a $1,500 surcharge on that bike? Now it's $14,000. $14,000 for a motorcycle that's making, to the flywheel, 117, 118 horsepower. I mean, damn, that's 60 less than this. And if we're just going off of flat math, I think I would pay. I mean, what would you have to put into an R9 to get it to make still less horsepower than the Honda? A lot more than you would pay for the stock Honda. And again, it's got the same wheelbase, the same more comfortable riding position. It's got 189 horsepower now. Again, acclaimed 10 more horsepower than the outgoing bike. And that's not me saying that. That's Honda saying that, because let me just do this real quick. See if it's on this thing still. Let's see if it's still in here. I'm trying to find it. One of the press releases was talking about it having, and it might have been on this one or another one. Oh, hang on. It might be here. Full TFT screen, race spread ergonomics. Throttle by wire. Let's see if it's still on this one or not. I might have blown right past it. I might be blank screening right now. I'll be right back, guys. Let me see if I can find it in here. Anyway, it's not on this one, but take my word for it. It's out there somewhere where it's even Honda saying it's making 10 more horsepower. So, I mean, damn. Again, when you start talking about, this kind of bike and spending the kind of money you would spend on it, one of the first things I've got to ask is it gonna, how would the channel respond to it? That's the main thing. I've got to be mindful about, what you guys would want to see. So I guess for me, I'm asking you guys, would you rather see CBR 1000 content, or would you rather see Suzuki GSX-R 750 content? Not that I haven't, saturated my channel with GSX-R 750 content already. But the thing is as much as I like the Honda, I have to understand also that it's a tough bike to actually search on the internet. You go hunting Honda CBR 1000R and you end up finding a bunch of Fireblade stuff. So it might be one of those things where it's just easier for me to stick and hold with what I got. And trust me, it's a great place to be. Love the GSX-R 750. But I mean, damn, this Honda had me absolutely just you know, over my shoulder looking, man. I mean, it's a lot of fun to ride for sure. All right, let's check in with you guys. Ryan say, how much torque? 84 foot-pounds is what the new CBR is making, double R. DM saying, I know Honda builds a good bike, but I've always liked the feel and sound of the other big three. Here's the thing. Again, Honda, they've always built a great bike, but it's always so. And I didn't say this in any one of the review or the post ride. What I used to say about the Honda CBR 1000 was that the 08 especially, this really started happening in 08 and 09. That bike, that when I had my GSXR 750, then we were doing a bunch of track days and spending a lot of time up in the mountains. And I had a little bit of experience with an 08. And I used to say about that bike, it's the best 750 that money can buy. And the reason why I was calling a leader class bike a 750 is that it could not run with a GSXR 1000. It couldn't run with a ZX10 in terms of outright power, but it handled beautifully and it had a ton of mid-throttle response. And it ran the way that you would hope that a GSXR 750 would run. If you come off of a 600, like you want there to be a ton of a difference, right? Well, the CBR was never in terms of horsepower, it was still a big leap, but it wasn't as big of a leap as a Suzuki would be. And it made the power better down low, and it just was a smoother running bike, very much more refined. And so you got the sense that this bike was just, although not nearly as powerful as its counterparts, there was a really strong argument that it was a better bike because the power was maybe more usable in that you could use more of the throttle and it wasn't as frantic. And these are in days well before you had any kind of rider aids. And this is, you're doing good if you're running Pilot Powers back then on tires. So yeah, it's going to be kind of crazy. Oh, I just blew past everybody. Sorry about that. What happened? Sorry, guys. Ryan's liking the R1. Yes. By the way, R1 may happen on Tuesday. So we'll see about that. Got a 2019 R1 that I'm going to try to ride for you guys. Carl saying, I mentioned last week that my radiator was leaking on my 21 Street Fighter V4S. Yes, even though my warranty was up 2 years ago, Ducati's going to pay for the replacement. Oh, cool. And you just got to pay for labor. Very cool. I'm glad they stepped up and helped you out. Sovereign is in. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that R1. It's kind of funny. Every bike that I ride, I always fall in love with. Ryan saying, my very first bike was a Yamaha. Mine too. PW50. Sovereign got him a Prius. Oh, OC. Oh, yeah, car stuff. Brent saying, now Honda just needs to make a fully fared Hornet sport bike. Man, I tell you what they need, it would be great. See, this would be a cool bike. And you bring up a good point. And it's a point that a lot of people would agree with. And it goes something like this. Suzuki GSX S1000, Honda Hornet, CB1000 SP, CB750. You've got some Triumph. Lest we forget Triumph, Street Triple. Street Triple is built on the outgoing, or the old, not even outgoing, 675 Daytona platform. Put a fairing on it. You, Triumph, are the engine provider for Moto 2. The fact that they don't have a fully faired 765, it makes about 128, 130 horsepower. The fact that they don't have that is one of the reasons why I just won't go back to a Triumph dealership. They keep shooting themselves in the foot. They need to make that bike, or I really don't have a reason to go in there and look at anything. Honda, why in the world? Look, faired bikes are on the uprise. Right? Again, the sport naked stuff, a lot of guys are starting to look past it. And the reason why is because manufacturers started making them more and more and more and more powerful. And you kind of start needing a way to get through the wind once you start getting above, 130, 140 horsepower. Now you're building a bike with what is in essence entry-level superbike power, but with a riding position that's much more upright. Has really nothing to do with wind at that point, although now you're a big sail in the air. But those bikes are geared more for torque, and you've got a riding position which has your weight even further back. They become a lot more unstable. Build them if you like. People will buy them, but I'm thinking if you've got 130 to 150 horsepower combination, whatever it is, you've got to have a fully faired version of that. So I'm 100% with you, and it would sell. Look, guys want sport bikes, but not necessarily 190 horsepower. And the R9 is a really good example of this. It is a good looking motorcycle in person, but more to the point, it is a very good use of not a lot of power. That bike, if it had 140 horsepower, the way that you have to basically turn every screw on that engine to get to that number, it would be a lights out seller. And I think that if manufacturers would take that approach now and build these bikes, quit making the freaking sport. Look, I love the GSX S1000. The Aprilia Tuono, though, that I rode, that was in very close proximity to the S1000, it made a little bit more sense from one point of view, and that is that you're a little bit more committed with your riding position. And I think that makes better sense. But still, it's also got more fairing around it, right? So it's making more power. It's got more wind protection around it. It's going to move the wind around you a lot better. See what I'm getting at? Anyway, I think that would sell well. And I would like to see manufacturers get into the habit of doing that. DM saying, I'm really surprised about the Honda. I wish I had the time to watch the vids before live today. In the past, my impression of Honda was that it was a good street bike, but they don't make good track bikes. Thing is, now it's actually really good. And I would want a 190/55 tire on the back of this thing. Yeah, I would still want a 190/55 on the back of this bike, as long as it didn't freak out the electronics. But it really is that good. And the new Honda is really that good. And it's that good. Look, it's that good if you can only get it through your head that you're not riding an R1, a GSX R1000. You'll definitely know you're not on a ZX10. By the way, for example, the ZX10, when it comes to wheelbase, where the Gixxer Thau is at 56, the 750 is at, call it 54 and a half, and the CBR is at 55 and a third, but just call it 55. The ZX10, 57 inches. That is it's a football field difference, and you feel it when you're sitting on that bike too. DM saying Honda is expensive to modify. It is. You are right about that, because supply and demand, man. A lot of guys don't really do a lot of work to the Hondas. I'd say, yeah, Mark Marquez did win a few with Honda. A little bit different bike, but yes, still good. Yeah, factory stuff's great. Okay, so Akash is asking what I think about the Aprilia RS 457. It is a stunning looking bike in person. And the 457 looks great. The 660, the 2025 and 2026 660 in person are disgustingly good looking. Not to, so I think it's a great bike, Akash, and I really do. But I don't mean to get off your 457, but the 660, I mean, dude, if that bike made 130 to the wheels, it would be the only bike you would ever see on the street. It really is that freaking good looking. It's bigger in person than you think, though. It's damn near the size of this Honda, but it's a good bike, Akash. How's the live coming through, guys? Is it looking good? Signal looks good. I hope so. DM saying Honda burned me out when they introduced the 900, then 929, then 954. They just needed 1,000. Yeah, that was in the 900s era. And yeah, the 900 to the 954. That's actually a really good bike, and it's the lightest sport bike that I think Honda's ever made up to probably fairly recently. Honda MotoGP is a dog's paws for sure. Ryan saying R1 was on my Barracks Wawa station in Bamberg, Germany. So the R1, man, I'm telling you, and by the way, I will be on that if weather permitting on Tuesday. Ryan saying, I think sometimes folks get spoiled with the power. They fail to realize how much are they going to be able to use on the street. And thankful we have true SS in production. So here's the thing. I ride, and Orange Crush and Mother Buddy G run harder than most do on the street for the area that we're in. We would be maybe not competitive immediately, but given some time to get familiarity, we would be on par with the guys you see on the slow group up through Mulholland, right? Like, and maybe in some cases with the fast group. We're not messing around on the street. There are times we get out of a run and it looks like we've been on a track day. I mean, you'll see patches on the ground where we're exiting corners, things like that. That's not using all the power. I mean, entry speeds and things like that can all be accomplished with a 600 or a 750. It's how hard you can drive them out of the corner that is so just when it comes to a leader class bike. It's not just straight line, hammer on the thing to, an accidental 140, 150 miles an hour. Leader bikes will do that too, but they do it with just an apathetic sense of understanding of the laws of physics. It's just, and you're there, right? The thing is that there does come a point where tire technology can't deal with the power that you have. All the rider aids in the world can't save you from very poor decisions. They can't change the laws of physics or rewind time. And so, and when we go riding, we're all very well aware of this. But there is an amount of power that goes like peanut butter with jelly on the side of the tire. In other words, the tire technology, whether or not the bike has the intervening doodads or contraptions, there are times where I'm glad that I have an A1 mode that I ride my bike in. It's the most power and the least intrusive, but it really does get the job done in terms of just making me feel good, even though I know it's not really doing anything. These latest bikes are predictive, and you almost have to turn these things off in certain areas to get it to act right. So, if I were to do this bike again, I'd turn wheelie control off completely, and I'd make sure everything was on its dead minimum before I took it out again. And I think in that way, this bike comes into its own, but I think it also starts to ask the question of, is it too much for the wheelbase? And that's the other thing. Each chassis is going to have a different amount of power that it can manage practically, even with the right tire on the right tarmac at the right temperature, with everything, the suspension setup and all that. I can tell you this. I don't know what that limit is, because it changes for every rider and it changes for every environment. It changes for every altitude, temperature, you get it. But this bike at that size, with that ergonomic and with that amount of power, I think is it. Like, look, and you guys have heard me say this before too. What if I were to hand you a very well seasoned and seared 12-ounce filet mignon, right? You're not going to look at it and go, man, this is great. And it's medium rare and it's properly done, right? The cow lived a very long and prosperous life. And this is its gift to the world upon its demise. And you eat it. And I mean, you can eat it like an apple, right? And you're just going, yeah, this is great. But you know what? We need to add something to this. What would you add to it? And I think that's where we're at. We are all sitting here feasting on filet mignon. And, those that would argue one is better than the other just has a bigger cut than the next. You know what I mean? So it's hard to talk about better. It's hard to talk about best. It's hard to talk about what you can get away with these bikes, because good grief, all of them are so amazingly good. I mean, it's just chef's choice, man. Pick whichever one you think looks good. It's going to haul ass and it's going to be amazing, but you got to ride all of them. And just like what you guys were saying, DM, I totally get it. I wouldn't have given the Honda a second look. Never would I have given Honda a second look. And then I got an opportunity to ride one and freaking fell in love with it. So here we are with that. Right, saying, don't forget you're buying an Indian Challenge. I love the Indian Challenger, dude. DM saying, I'm also an R1 fanboy. I still have mine. I can't wait to ride one. Like I say, I'll be throwing a leg over the R1 on Tuesday. Ryan's liking the R1. It's an awesome looking bike, man. Ryan's saying, I love my Gixxer, but the dream will come true if I move to Leader or Hayabusa. Not sure between those two. Ooh, damn. Okay. I'll tell you this. The Hayabusa, under partial throttle conditions, runs the way you wish a Leader class bike would run. They really are that good. They're never going to handle with a Leader bike. That's out of the question. I mean, you can get out there and mix it up and just have a hoot and a holler with one, but we've already proven this. And I'm not saying this to be one way or another, but we were getting ready to make a run, and we had a guy in a Hayabusa buzz around us. And let me tell you how well it went for the dude on the Hayabusa. it didn't go well. I mean, it was 3 turns and the dude was 3 turns behind us. I mean, it was that quick. So, but I will say this, when I rode the Hayabusa as a street bike, I'll be darned if I can tell you a better bike than the Hayabusa for just going on a long, very fast, very spirited ride to somewhere that's an hour away, maybe 2 hours away. That's where that bike really comes into its own. And in that environment where you want to do like a cruise, like part of that cruise, you want to wick the thing up to say 100 and a lot of D5 miles an hour. It'll happily get there without even pressing the issue. Just slight roll into the throttle, let the torque carry you up to, you know, mid triple digit speeds, and it'll be as happy as a clam up there too. Ryan saying, my son is team green. I just blew right past this thing again. Quit it. Ah. Ryan saying, live looks good. Beautiful. Ryan saying, my son's team green, tried converting him, not going well. He's not on 2 wheels when he hits Supercross. He's decked out in Cowie shirt. Nice. Ryan, I would love to ride one of the CF motos. Ryan, team green, no. Siren's asking, hey, B, do you know what the bike was that Tom Cruise rode in Top Gun Maverick? Yes, GPZ 900 is what he rode. It was a 85, I think, 87. Ryan saying, yeah, we are highly experienced and you aren't the dudes online with issues on these bikes. Plus, the average rider won't use all the power. No, the average rider won't. Matter of fact, the average rider is going to lose their mind if they try to. And I've talked to guys, and this is the weird thing. Once you get to a certain level with these bikes, here's the fun thing. I can take that Indian Challenger for a ride. I can then hop on the Tuono V4. Then I can hop on the CBR 1000 and then get on my GSXR 1000. And I am so comfortable going back and forth with these bikes. And all of them feel like home to me. And it's one of the reasons why I'm such a whore when it comes to motorcycles. It's like, I just want to give them all big sloppy kisses. Cause I can just get on a bike and have fun with it. Cause the first thing I'm thinking about is this is fun. And I think a lot of times guys get around a bike like a leader bike and they go, this is scary. And I'm just going, oh my God, it's got how many fun powers does it have? It has 200 fun powers. Holy shit. This is going to be 200 fun powers worth of fun, you know, and I've never really been spooked by power. My problem is making sure I'm not overzealous on the street because I know what I'm doing a little bit, sort of, and I know what fun feels like. And so I want to do that more. Right. But no, you're right. Most guys don't really need a leader bike. Most guys need to be as far away from those, as a matter of fact, as he can get them. And that's why manufacturers make bikes like the R9. And for those guys, that bike is the best bike in the world for them because it's not going to put you without considerable effort on the rider's part into a significant perilous condition. I mean, you can definitely get there, don't get me wrong, but that bike is a really good bike for the rider that again is not coming into this with an ego, that wants to have fun and that knows where they're at. And I tell you what, the R9 is probably one of the most honest motorcycles out there. I really feel like that. So since we're kind of changing gears here, the reason why I feel like the R9 is one of the most honest motorcycles is that you know what you're looking at when you see it. Like you're not hiding behind anything. You're not trying to overcompensate for something with an R9. And it shows you are progressing through your journey with motorcycles when you are on an R9. You know, somebody that goes straight into a leader bike, they're trying to do that because it's a flex. We're going into leader bikes because we've already had all these other bikes. Why I like the GSXR 750 so much is because it's a throwback for me. And I mean, it's, you know, it's like, it really is like setting up with an old Marlin 22 at 50 yards and just plinking. You know, it's not that it's not fast. It is. It's not that it's not like rowdy. The GSXR 750 is plenty rowdy. But the thing about it is once you've ridden that and you've done track days, you've been up the mountains with them and all of that, at some point you become a better rider. And now it's more fun to see just how tight my grouping can get with that bike. And you guys see how I ride the Gixxer Thou too. And I always try to, I didn't do it on the last video. Oh, because I was talking about the 2026. Did any of you guys pick up on what I didn't mention? I want to see if, so back when I used to do a bunch of Mopar videos or car videos, there was always an Easter egg in the video. And then somebody would say, hey, it's, you know, you're wearing the same shirt of a topic that you're talking about or whatever. Let me just cut to the chase. So what has been made very, I don't know, very much a part of the conversation with the 2026 GSXR 1000 is about the new electronic suite. And although it doesn't have a TFT, it does have all the predictive, what they're calling throttle torque or something like that, which is to say just power when you're on the side of the tire. We'll be turning that off. Thank you. But it's got a lot of doodads, right? And it's got a lot of gadgets and gizmos and everything else. The bike that I have just has A1. It's, you want max power in A, and 1 is the lowest amount of intrusion. If it sees something really freaky happen, if it figures out something has gone completely weird, then it'll start to roll off throttle. But the reality is that for the most part, it's just there doing its thing, and ABS is really all you're really working with that setup. If you noticed, I never mentioned anything about that in that video. And the reason why I didn't mention it is notice how hard I'm hitting those turns. I'm not really crushing it, but I'm playing with it pretty hard. The pace that I'm at and the way that I'm riding that motorcycle is higher than about 80% of guys that will own that motorcycle. It's higher than about 80% will ever ride that bike. And you were watching me do that as I'm just kind of talking, and I go, hold please, and I'll do it real quick. I didn't talk about the setup to the turn, didn't talk about the drop in, didn't talk about maintenance throttle, didn't talk about power, didn't talk about our favorite stop sign. I didn't say anything about that in that one, and I didn't say it about the first right-hander, and I didn't say it about the second right-hander either. And it's to illustrate a point. I've got a bike. I've practically got all this stuff turned off for practical purposes anyway. I'm out here having a blast on this GSXR 1000, and it's the tire technology. It's the comfort that I have with the bike. It's the way that this bike makes power. I understand that folks want all this extra. For me, all the extra when it comes to rider aids is just to homologate the thing for racing, because the racers are employing all of that. And, you know, on a racetrack where you need every cheat code you can find, then maybe that'll work. I'm just out here on the street having fun, goofing off, right? So anyway, that's the Easter egg, is that I never once mentioned, and I was a conscious decision, because it was hard to do that too, by the way. But I made a conscious decision. I was not going to talk about traction control, electronic wheelie control. I wasn't going to do any of that. In fact, I made sure that I drug the front tire up a little bit on that very last left-hander coming into the marina, where I've got the bike on the side of the tire and I'm rolling into the throttle. I kind of sit back a little bit and let it come up and sit down. It's just a little bit. That kind of stuff is fun. And if you've got nannies that are coming in and affecting that, it can end up affecting how you learn to ride the bike. And that is an upcoming video, by the way. I'm going to try to film that tomorrow. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm only going to be talking about the traction control, the nannies, the wheelie control. I'm going to be talking about all of that in that video, provided that it doesn't come a freaking flood down here like it did today. Oh, DM, yep, GPZ 900 Ninja. Oh, Ryan saying when he took his buddy's R1 out, he rarely got it out of second gear. But yeah, the noises those things make are amazing. Oh, and the new movie, yeah, he had the H2 also. It's a bad bike. That's a bad bike. And when we're talking about fast, the H2 is on a whole different stratosphere. I mean, an H2 with like some tuning, just breathing on the thing is 240 horsepower at the rear tire. Brent, oh, liking the steak analogy. Thank you, sir. Oh, the Maverick F14 Transformer. DM saying, B, that's great. I believe you. DM saying the Busa feels like a motor and a half. The Busa's funny. The Busa under partial throttle, this is where, I mean, the Busa is just a weird bike to ride when you're a leader class bike rider. Because the Busa at partial throttle accelerates down low in the RPM range. The Busa at partial throttle accelerates harder than the leader bike does at wide open throttle. It like through part of the mid range. It's kind of funny. Like if you go RPM for RPM, because the Busa redlines at like 10 or 10.5, it makes peak power at like 9,500 RPM. It's funny because it feels like you're riding something that's powered by a jet engine. Like it just whisks you forward. I can't really put it into words just how good a Hayabusa feels to ride in general. It absolutely has its advantages over a leader bike when it comes to acceleration. It may not out accelerate it forever on a roll race, but it will absolutely get the jump, and it is always buttery smooth and has the best quick shifter, I think, in the business right now. Oh, DM saying, check out the movie Faster. Oh, Forever Rad. That guy is killing it with the Indian stuff. I saw that. That looks cool as hell, doesn't it? Yeah, those baggers are nasty, man. Oh, Sovereign saying the accessory looks like a B King, or I don't know, probably something that they had put together specifically for that that deal you're talking about. Oh, Ryan was saying no earlier. It must have stopped or commercial kicked in or something. So, and I'm about to wrap it up here in a minute, guys. We just went over an hour. Hey, so real talk, guys. GSXR 1000 for 2026. Look, it's going to be an awesome bike. It really will. And we all know this coming into it. But I got to say, hold on, plug this thing in. I got to say, as good of a bike as that's going to be, and it looks like I don't know the for sure's yet. I'm still reaching out to my peeps on this. It has all the trappings of a bike that it looks like it's down on power initially, but then you put the pipes and the tune on it, and it freaking comes alive. That's awesome. I can only ask this: at what point is enough though? After riding the CBR 1000. I'm reminded of just how good a motorcycle can be. It's a middleweight with a 1000cc engine. It's extremely refined. It's got a lot of rider aids. Some folks would say that a lot of those rider aids are unnecessary. I would probably argue that they are mainly right, but not 100% right. I would say that the CBR 1000 for me is representing one hell of a motorcycle for somebody that just wants to get out there and have fun and want something that is going to be reliable and that is going to be well put together. Fit, finish, and fitting the rider is so important. And the CBR 1000 has it in droves. But that being said, look, I get it. That's a great bike. I know it's a great bike. But damn. Do you wait on this thing or do you pull the trigger on the CBR? I don't know. It's something I'm going to have to think about. But with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out with me. Could not, would not do it without you. Get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Y'all take care.